Hi and welcome to the Andy Gorman Golf One Putt podcast, and we're here at the start of round two. This is round two with a difference, and ultimately, that's exactly what we're here to do, isn't it? Is to make a difference, and hopefully, and round two is going to look a little different from round one, and that's something that I particularly like. We'll mix it up a little bit, and hopefully you'll be able to tell the difference. We will still a little bit of tour talk, but we are going to mix a few things up in there as well. So you're here being able to see us as well as hear us. We're going to be here on YouTube, and you're going to be able to see some of the clips on our other social channels as well. So we are particularly thankful of those of you that are joining us on the different channels. So obviously, yes, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Clubface Golf. My word, the list is growing, and of course, obviously, we're at we are doing what we're doing. So that's cool. So it's live recording. It's all good, and it's great to go forward with. So we're cracking on. Gareth, great to see you. What's new? What's going on? All right, we've got a plan, but you're holding the cards at the moment. So
yeah, definitely. I think today we've discussed talking about kind of almost trick and treats, and I think one of the first treats that we've got to talk about is the success of your players in the Robert Rock series.
Yeah, the Robert Rock series, for those of you that don't know, is a junior golf program here. It's a junior golf tour here in the UK, predominantly Midlands, but it does get around and about. And, if the Midlands stretches as far as Humberside and almost on the edges of London, I suppose, Surrey, it is getting there. So it's growing around the UK. And, from what I hear, it's going to be an even bigger and better tour next year. I've got 3 players that played in the finals, which I'm just absolutely stoked for. I mean, the kids have played really well over the summer period. Of course, are affected by the L word, which we're about to do a 2.0 at the back end of this week. So those of you that, around the world, yes, we're going into lockdown. I think we're not on our own from the point of view of England is going into lockdown, but looks like a lot of Europe is going into lockdown as well this week for a second time. But lockdown 1 affected a lot of the kids, golf, and it affected all of us in terms of golf and a lot of the golf program that was going out there. And subsequently, we were affected. So, we didn't get to see each other for face to face, and, from a coaching point of view until July, and we got back up and running, and, kids are resilient, they get right back on it. And, we've got Kai and Ariana and Sam, and they got off to a flyer, and, Sam's just come on board. We're sort of helping him straighten things up, and, hopefully without too much of a lockdown interference, we will be able to continue the work, and we'll be doing things remotely, as it was already being put into place with parents and the kids. So, yeah, they've done extremely well. Top 3 finishes from Sam and Ariana, and Kai won the Order of Merit. So, second year running, so really good from that point of view. How do you big the kids up? Really, they work hard all through the year. You don't always get what you deserve, but what I can say is that I set my stall out with all of my juniors as well as I do with my clients. And, with Sam, we're just getting going. Sam's 10, Ariana's similar age, but she started coming to see me when she was about 8. And Kai's 13. And, I said to Kai, look, you're a little bit older, but ultimately, I'd like you to do a video every time you practice, post it on Coach Now, which is our training space platform. I have over 800 videos from Kai, which is just absolutely incredible. We've been working together now, back end of this month, in about 3 weeks' time. We will have been working for 2 years, which, just shows you the level of his commitment. 800 videos only in the last, sort of a week or so. Has he done that? You know, there was a lot of counting, but yeah, it's a video a day at least, obviously, and he just keeps going and going and going and going. And you know, there are oftentimes 2 and 3 videos that come through. Some at the golf club. If you can't get to the golf club, most of them, you know, will be a good view of his bedroom window, you know, view of his bedroom. Sorry for, you know, because he's got his own practice station, and he's got the tee stroke and the tee stroke mat and the putting board, and I'm sure there's other training products that are floating around, putt outs there as well, of course. And you know, he just trains and trains and trains. It's brilliant, and you know, I can't speak highly enough of anybody who, you know, is disciplined enough to. He probably does it in the morning as well. But, you know, he's, yeah, the putting the ball down the Wicks rule, though, he probably leaves that until a bit later, because you can hear the evidence is quite obvious when you're running down the ruler. It's quite noisy. It's not noisy, but you know that somebody's doing it. And, yeah, so he's doing that every day. And, you know, he's lowered his handicap from 25 to 5. You know, he's going to find out today what his world handicap is. We're anticipating it being a little lower, and you know, but even if it isn't, 25 to 5 is an incredible improvement in 2 years, and you know, as well, and that is well deserved. You know, he's worked really, really hard. He set a stall out at the beginning of the year which said, I want to get a competitive round of golf. Oh, sorry, I want to shoot a round of golf that's level par. He did that, even, you know, with a 10-week lockdown. He did that. I'm going to say July, end of July, beginning of August time, and then he did it competitively. And he actually did it in the club championship, which at his club, and you know, which was fantastic. And you know, the disappointing thing from his point of view, not from mine, I'm not, you know, going to be disappointed with any delays in progress. You know, he was 3 under par after 11 and wanted to get to 6 because he knew that he was that far behind. He wanted to get to 6. He didn't finish up shooting level par, holding a 6-foot par on the last green to do that, by the way. He didn't, you know, shoot level par because he tried to hang on. He shot level par because he was actually trying to make more birdies. And, you know, at that, got the cap for that one, because, you know, that's a mindset that we had talked about, and he tried it and it didn't come off, but he got to shoot level par. That's phenomenal. You know, at the age of 13, it was a bit later for me. You know, I never got to the stage where, you know, Kai's looking to go. So, you know, let's see. Time will tell.
Is there something in a player that you see, Andy, from your experience on tour and the caliber of golf? Like, can you almost see it in an individual when they've got that, almost, I don't want to say the coin term, the X factor, but that's something that's going to take them to that next level?
Yes, it's that X factor. You know, what is it? But there is something there, and it's oftentimes there's an element of drive. I think a player has to want it, irrespective of the talent. You see talent a lot, but you don't see the drive a lot. And I'd rather have a player who's driven personally, not by parents, by the way, but personally driven over any amount of talent. Because if the talent's there, that's fine. But, you know, if they don't want it, there's no point. Because they're not going to train. They're not going to make changes. They're not going to do the things they need to do. They've got to want it. And I think the difference really is that it's wanted early. It doesn't, I'm not saying that it doesn't switch on, because it can, but, or it can't switch on because it can. But the player has to want it to a point. A really, really good friend of mine, friend I've known a long, long time. He'll be listening here, and I'm going to mention Ian's name, and he knows. I'm not mentioning his last name, but he knows who it is. He's got 2 boys who are sporting boys. Right? One's in football, he's goalkeeper, and one is a swimmer. The swimmer gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and not that dad needs waking or mom needs waking, but he's there ready, breakfast, whatever has to be done to get in the pool at the earliest opportunity before he goes to school.
Mm-hmm.
And he's swimming under 14s. I guess he's going on under 15s now, but he's a year ahead of his age group. So, at the age of 13, he was swimming in the 14s category, or 12 probably, and in the under 14s category. So he's, if I've got any of that wrong, then I'll be corrected in the next conversation. But ultimately, that desire to be successful is putting him in a world ranking position where he is very high up, and he's top of the UK tree or the Great Britain tree at this point in time for his age group. So that's where we, where that drive is. Now, I'm not sort of mentioning who they are, apart from obviously Ian knows who he is and who his kids are. These successes are not by fluke when the desire and determination to do the things that are right are there. Now, at the same time, then coaching has to match the talent to bring everything else out. And you have to have some of that X factor, talent, code, call it what you will, to go with it. Because if you can't swim, you're not going to become an Olympian in the pool, anytime soon, and nor actually should you probably have the desire to do so. It goes hand in hand. And, so swimming is an individual sport, albeit, there are governing bodies that obviously control selections, and but you can't ignore great speeds and world records being, or European records or British records being, broken continually in the pool. So, and likewise with golf, there may well be people around that would prefer certain individuals not to be there for whatever reason. But if you're winning all the tournaments, you can't be ignored because too many questions get asked.
Yeah.
And this is it, I've always said to folk, and it was said to me early on, don't tell everybody how good you are, let the clubs do the talking. Mm-hmm. And that is it at the end of the day. And if you can go through a whole season and manage to come out at the end of the season, having won that particular tour that you're playing on, doesn't matter what tour you're on, to be honest with you. It doesn't matter what your level of competition is. If you're shooting your personal bests every time you go out, you're improving every single time, as collectively as you can, because obviously you don't go out and shoot 80 one day and 79, 78, 76. It's not a kind of game, is it? So, but continue to improve, then, the determination to succeed should reap rewards, and it doesn't always, but it should, and and no reason why it shouldn't. But that's where you have to match the coaching that goes with the player, and that there is a relationship that is built around player coach relationship, and parents as well when we're talking about kids, and if it's a tour player, the rest of the team, because if the putting coach is doing his thing and the swing coach is doing his thing and the psychologist is doing his thing and the manager isn't doing his thing, there are going to be some challenges that will ultimately bear out on the golf course that none of the swing psychologists, short game coaches can deal with because of a breakdown at the top of the tree, which is an off-course thing. So the mind has to be clear, and as good a psychologist as anybody can be, if the mind isn't clear because of off-course activity, then on-course activity is going to be a challenge. So, it is a full team, and the whole team has to be pulling in the same rowing direction, So it's, yes, you can spot the talent in answer to your question, but it's not a straightforward answer. I wish it was, and I wish you could actually tell what it looked like, because it would save an awful lot of parents and children, from some of the challenges that go with the fact that, that X factor isn't there. And, and of course, we know about pushy parents, and I'm extremely fortunate that none of the parents that I'm, of the kids that I'm working with currently are pushy parents. They are encouraging parents, they will bend over backwards for their kids, as good parents do. We all have. You're at little man, with as a dad, and you do things for your kids because you think it's right. You don't know that it's right. You think it's right, and and sometimes as parents, especially sporting parents, we can live our lives through our children if we didn't make it happen ourselves. And if that disappoints us or it challenges us and we're not necessarily disciplined in our own, for our own sake, the kids suffer, and that's a big challenge. And a lot of parents are not prepared to accept that. It's a challenging quality that's required. As we've said, I played golf on the back of, not enjoying football the way that I really wanted to enjoy sport. And Dad gave me the freedom to walk away from his sport, not mine, to go and pursue my sport that became both of ours. I mean, obviously Dad was playing golf, but, ultimately we came to an agreement, and Dad didn't push me to play golf, but he did say, if you're going to give up football, you need to take up something else or be doing something else to fill that time. So that was his nudge, gentle nudge in the right direction to say, look, I have no problem with you making decisions about your life and lifestyle and livelihood, even at the age of, 10, 11, 12. He allowed me to grow up real quick. And I think one of the things, the beauty about this, I've said it before, is you grow up quick in a golf club. As a kid, are our kids generally accepted at golf clubs? No. I don't care how liberated the golf club is, but the kids are generally not accepted at golf clubs because, it's an adult world, and it's typically a male adult world. So kids, and especially girls, really do get a rough rap. And, but it's slowly, we're stemming the tide, and slowly we're seeing that the new blood, or the blood that will support the club in 40 years' time, is, it's this, are being accepted. And, generally speaking, when a kid does well at the club and they're representing the club, then the club kind of, okay, what was probably a little bit of jealousy to start with is now, sort of an acceptance towards, oh, come on, can we get them in the first team? Can we get them on the scratch team? And so the kids get bloody quite early. I mean, I was 14 when I played in the scratch team and represented the club, and it was a tough baptism. You're out there on your own, and you're playing against grown individuals, and grown men owning their own businesses typically, and or managing significant businesses or banks or whatever it might be. That's what you're up against. And it's a 14-year-old. You either shut up or put up, and and just get on and let your clubs do the talking. So, but you
touched on it with Kyle a little bit earlier on about I don't know if it is going on our Halloween theme, a trick or a treat today with the new World Handicap System launch. What are your first thoughts of it, Andy? What are the things that you've seen and read and heard about the new approach to the handicap system and in the world now, around the globe?
In the first instance, I actually like the fact that we've got a global system, and I think that it's been a long time coming. Why that's been the case is probably as political as anything else, any other decisions that have been made over the weekend. Nothing like me to be controversial, is there? Don't worry, we'll go there in a minute. I think from a point of view of the World Golf Handicap System, I think has on paper something that I'm familiar with. I had 5 years in Jamaica, as you know, and we played a slope handicap system back then. The average of the best 10 from the last 20, from my belief, it is the average of the best 8 from the last 20.
Yeah.
And I think that will keep the handicaps down. But I don't know all of the nitty gritty. You may know a little bit more in terms of if you go out to play golf, you have to put a card in. That was always the case under the old slope system, USGA slope system. And if you didn't, you ended up with a scratch score. So you better put a card in. And, you know, the handicap system could monitor when we went to individual holes, could monitor vagaries or peculiarities in the scorecard marking. So, you know, finishing with 3 sixes could be deemed to be a little bit peculiar. If it happened 3 or 4 times, it would definitely be deemed to be peculiar. And if it was protecting the handicap, it would, you know, adapt it. So, you know, those were things that were around that I was familiar with. So, you know, I think you know, that's something that's ultimately, you know, needs to be addressed. But I don't see that as a bigger deal these days. Probably because I'm not competing at club level. You know, I'm not playing in handicap competitions. But trying to protect your handicap, trying to keep your handicap falsely high for the silverware trophies, for the pro-ams, for whatever it might be, you know, I mean, that's, you know, whatever they are, you know, and folk are going to be there, and we know we've got a particularly honest sport, you know, in real terms, but there are a few out there that will try and nudge their handicap in the wrong direction. And there'll be a few out there that will lower their scores because they want to win that particular competition. We know that happens. We can't deny it. We'd be remiss of us to do so. But I think that this handicap system is the fairest way to level the playing field.
Yeah, as you mentioned before about the kind of you know, almost forcing the hand to put a score in. You've got an option now, so it goes back to how the supplementary card system used to work. Whereas you can go into the pro shop, you can tap into the tablet unit in the club that you're going to put this scorecard in today to count towards your handicap index. So that's how it's going to work. So for people who maybe, again, I think it's great who haven't got time to play in the Saturday and Sunday competitions, you can still put a counting score in towards your handicap on a 9-hole roll up, me and you going out and having 9 holes or 18 holes on a Monday night. It'll be great for that kind of golf.
Yeah, I think that's where it needs to be. And it gets us used to having scorecards in our hands for those that don't, you know, like you say, don't get an opportunity to play. I mean, those in retail don't get a chance to play in a competition at a weekend, you know, because they're working, you know. So, you know, there's a lot of folk that are, you know, going to benefit from, you know, this and the opportunities, and, you know, and youngsters as well. I mean, you know, if anybody's got any beef about it and you don't like youngsters winning competitions, this handicap system's for you. Because the kids are going to get their handicap wiped in no time.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be sitting there pulling the silverware out of the, you know, the senior members' hands. You know, they are literally going to get their handicaps wiped down from, you know, 36 to, you know, to 10, you know, in next to no time. As soon as they go on a vein of form, you know, and we know that happens, you put them into summer holidays and after schools and they're on the golf course at 4 o'clock, you know, and they don't come home until 10, you know, then brilliant. You know, let them be rewarded and get their handicaps down. They might miss out on a few competitions that they would have won the previous year, but they'll be playing off a handicap that is, you know, respectful of the scores they're shooting. And of course, if the player dozen times during the winter and the scores aren't very good, then it'll balance things out a little bit. So, you know, I think it'll be interesting to see how players get used to the fact that, you know, within, you know, sort of 10, 15 rounds of golf, which is still a lot of golf. You know, arguably it's going to be a couple of months worth of golf. You can flip your handicap, you know, up and down very, very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, my experience of it with best 10 was +1 to +4 in 6 weeks. And, you know, it kind of happened in the blink of an eye, but I hit a purple patch, average scores of 67, and, you know, I'm playing off +4 before I know it, you know. So I was quickly stopped in my tracks, as I may well have said before, by the captain of the club saying, "Hey, pro, what's it like standing on the first tee 4 over par and you haven't hit a bad shot yet?" What kind of a question is that? You know, and on a fast start, birdie, you know, 2 reachable par 5s, ordinarily to start 6-6, I was more than 4 over par and more than just the collective 6 over par, which on the scorecard it looks like, because when you're banking on making shots up on those holes and you know, birdie just puts you back to 2 over. You know, you feel like you're 8 over after two holes, and only 16 holes to make back 8 birdies. So, you know, plus some, and it kind of, you know, it did put a weird sort of spin on things. Really, it was a question I'd never thought of, and an answer I didn't really want. Of course, I got my own back on the captain on the 3rd tee, but that was beside the point.
But that can happen again, Andy. Under the new system now, we as pros can get handicaps, which is really encouraging.
I'll play golf though, Gareth. You've got to actually play golf.
Yeah, we have got to play golf.
I'm get out there and actually get a handicap again, aren't I? So,
yeah. And I love about the new system as well as it travels with you. So if we went out to Dubai, if we went to, you come over here to Stoke and played my golf course.
Hold on. Dubai, Stoke.
Yeah, well, I had to go somewhere.
I tell you what, in the middle of November, I think we're going for Dubai. Maybe in the middle of summer, when it's 46 degrees in Dubai, we might consider the outskirts of Stoke. But
yeah. jumping on a bit of tour talk. Have you seen where the tour is? The kind of ladies European tour is this week in Dubai. Like, it's an amazing tournament.
It is. I can't remember what it's called. I just caught a glimpse of it as we, we had our pre-chat, and I just caught a glimpse of it, and I thought, wow, a golf under moonlight or something. It's
That's
called,
it. That's what it's called.
I think it's awesome. So I believe it's Dubai. There was a golf course, or the international course in Abu Dhabi is floodlit, and I'm trying to think which of the courses. The Emirates Academy course is floodlit, so you can play that at night.
Did you play at night, Andy, when you were out there last year?
I didn't. No. I'm not saying it's a regret, because we'll do Dubai again as soon as travel allows us to do that. But no, I didn't do it while I was out there. I have played night golf, and that's been a lot of fun. Both under floodlit and with sort of night golf.
The day glow stuff, yeah.
The day glow golf balls. I mean, it's a joke, because you have to wait until it's freezing cold, don't you? Until you can go out there and play. It's -5, and but I was fortunate because we had a par 3 course out in Jamaica, so we put the glow sticks out on the course at one of the hotels, and we did it on the little pitch and putt course around there, hosted a tournament. It was fab. We used to do that every year, but we used to play what we call goofy golf, and play some really quirky sort of ways around the golf course. So it was it was a lot of fun. It's a little bit dangerous at night, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I've done it myself. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a lot of fun, and I think there's a lot of ways that you can play golf and make it fun. Don't leave the clubs at home. That'd be one way for some folk. But yeah, absolutely. With regards to the girls, I mean, it'd be great to see, and you do get different perspectives at night. And even with all the floodlighting, which is pretty intense out there, it will be interesting to see how folk actually do play 18 holes in the dark. And
because I imagine short game wise, putting, it must be quite difficult.
Yeah, I mean, we had at the international course when I was out in Abu Dhabi with one of my clients 2 years ago now. He was we stayed there, and so we had the opportunity to go and potter around on the driving range, which of course is floodlit, but to have the putting green and the short game area floodlit was just superb. And I mean, grass is still growing. Those temperatures. I mean, we were shorts and t-shirt. Weather, or be sort of Christmas time, so temperature did drop a little bit, but it was phenomenal, really, just to get out there and practice your putting midnight. I mean, it's just kind of surreal, but it's great fun. So yeah, but I don't think breaks necessarily show up as much. So you then go into the reliance of feel, which of course, when we talk about aim point is all about feel. So, it wasn't something that kind of played with me, too heavily, but, I know it did with my client, Paul. He struggled initially, but we got out there every day and, every night, and gave him a different perspective to what slopes actually were, by feeling them in his feet. And, we even kicked our shoes off and did it that way. to get a real good sense of it. So, there's a lot of things that you can benefit from it.
And then the guys were in this week in Cyprus. That looked absolutely beautiful. And talking of scary tee shots, that one over the par 5 over just a cliff, it just looked amazing.
Yeah, scary tee shots. I mean, crikey, we're talking about scary tee shots. What about the 16th hole at Port Royal in Bermuda? I mean, talk about a scary tee shot there. Par 3 of 200 yards or I can't remember the total distance. I think he got out there about 200 yards, didn't it? Phenomenal. And I love all of that. I think and I think one of the things that we've had through lockdown one, and obviously the tour not being able to have the tour events that we would ordinarily have, we've been to some phenomenal venues, and they are largely set up for, or typically for tourists to go and play. All the same, they are great golf courses, and you're going to see some courses that have been designed by sort of household names that wouldn't necessarily get onto a tour venue because it can't host sort of 20,000 people to watch, but makes great television and challenges the players to come up with a different venue, a different way of thinking, a different way of getting the job done. So I'm loving the fact that we're getting to see different golf courses. I think more in the States they're sticking with more traditional courses that they would ordinarily use. But maybe if they are going to consider a limited sort of crowd offering, that they can look at some of the venues that are typically not going to need to have. Of course, one of the big things is they've had to have a bubble, so the venues had to be able to host, the bubble, in effect, the 150 players, the caddies, and any auxiliary staff that will be there required to run the tournament. So, you're not allowed off-site for that week. So, hotels, golf course complexes like that, I think it's great. I think it's great from a golf point of view and gives us something fresh and different to look at. So
where for you, Andy, where have you stood on a tee box and been petrified? Pardon the kind of Halloween still from this weekend connotations. Where's the scariest you've been?
Tee boxes that petrify me. There's been a few, and I'm just trying, because you didn't tell me what we were going to be doing on this. You just said,
Got to get you. Do you want me to
this is
straight off the bat, straight off the cuff.
12th tee at Caymanas in Jamaica.
Okay. Take us there.
I'll take you there, right. So you walk up a hill to the 11th green, which is the green itself, I want to say, is about 2 stories high. So imagine, in effect, a 3-story house. It's on top of your roof. The green sits on top of a standard top of a roof. The green's up at that height, and you're coming in with about a 6-iron or a 5-iron into the green if you hit a good quality tee shot. This is number 11. So the tee shot itself on number 11 isn't so scary because it's actually quite wide open, but you need to get it in the fairway. So you've got a perched up balls, lie, rather than a bit of Bermuda grass where the ball sits down, because it isn't getting up high enough to get up that bank, and land on the green and stop. So, 6-iron, 5-iron potentially. So you're going in with 2 irons off the tee to hit the fairway. 6-iron, 7-iron at best. If you get a really good drive down there, you may be able to get your, sort of shorter wedges or, sort of 9-iron, in there and get some elevation on it, even out of the rough. That's okay. You get to the tee, get to the green, you've walked up this bank and you go like, it's 35 degrees, Fahrenheit, centigrade, not Fahrenheit. We're talking about in the 90s, and it's just outside of Kingston. It's hot, all year round, and you get to the top of that green and you go and have your putt, and you've got more than that elevation again to get to the 12th tee. But now this is also over probably somewhere in the region of about 100 yards to get up to the tee. As you get up there, your breath is gone. It's really hot. You're chucking some water in. As fast as the water goes in, it's coming out. It's pouring out your hands. And then you stand on a double out of bounds par 5, out of bounds left, out of bounds right, par 5, got to hit the driver. And I've seen guys stand on there and hit 9-iron off the tee. It's relatively wide until you add to the fact that there's probably a little bit of breeze because you're at the highest point in the area. You've now got sweaty hands from what feels like 45 degrees of heat. You're walking up there. And so I chucked a couple of gloves in my bag, and, you know, I had a glove on. The only time I ever wore a glove was put the glove on there and, you know, hit a shot with a glove on, because by the time I took the glove off, it was dripping. You know, it was, put it back in the bag, and, you know, it was dry again by the time I need to use it. But I tell you, that one was a scary one for me. There's a couple of par 3s. I was very fortunate to play trial, and, you know, that the par 3 at trial, which has got the ocean on the left, and it kind of cuts in front. So basically, you've got a gully that takes all of the rainwater out to the ocean in front of the green, and then the ocean to the left. And it could play a 9-iron if it was downwind. The least club I ever hit into it was 4-iron. And you've got, you know, Caribbean Sea on the left-hand side. I mean, it's just stunning. But you've got a 4-iron in your hands, and you don't, you know, wind swirling around, and there's a bit of a backdrop, so it kind of knocks the wind. You know, you don't really know what's going to happen to the golf ball. Hit it solid, not a problem. But you have got a 4 or 3-iron in your hand, and you know, so that one had you thinking. Just trying to think there. And one a little bit closer to home, you know, for me has to be the 9th tee shot at Forest of Arden.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about it.
Yeah. Andrew Cole, Andrew Cole was getting quite fearful. You could tell his tones in his voice that he kind of dreaded it on the commentary.
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate it. There's just something, even the forward tee, because, you know, whatever club you hit, then it just gets narrow where the landing zone is, because your start of the landing zone now is narrow, as well as the end of the landing zone, and it kind of doglegs and sort of sneaks a little bit. And you've got this water hazard, which isn't really a water hazard because you can't visibly see it. It's just trees, it's thick forest. I mean, you hit it in there, you know, you're dropping down, but, you know, of course, you're dropping down, you know, it's still 250 yards to go to par 4. You put it in the water hazard, you're going bogey. You know, sorry, you know, off a good pitch and putt, you double bogey invariably. So you can run up anything up the 9th. You can be 3 under par and be level by the time you've hit 10th tee. You know, I mean, that's and it gets in your head around about number 6.
Yeah,
you know, that's the biggie.
Because the 8th's not easy, is it? That par 3, it's not easy at the Forest of Arden.
No, it never troubled me, 8, to be honest with you. I suppose, you know, I played it from when I was, it was 9. I think 8, yeah, you're right. 8 is a difficult position. You know, if you go the tee back into the pond, you know, it's a great tee. And it's all carryover water. It's great. You know, I've got no problems with it. But, you know, it throws no fear, you know, into the mix, because you know what's coming. So I guess 8, I think 8 probably is the biggest challenge about 8 is the fact that 9 follows. 8's a relatively innocuous hole. It's a 180-yard carryover water. For some folk, that's going to be a challenge. Of course it is, but you can bail right. I mean, you know, you can hit it right. You can make it a par 4 if you wanted to, you know, deliberately miss the green and make the carry very short. But and you shouldn't be playing off the championship tee if you can't hit it that far either. That's another thing I would say. But yeah, you know, I don't think 8. I think just the biggest issue with the 8th hole is that the 9th tee shot follows it.
Yeah.
So,
and the beauty of all this that we're talking about, Andy, I'm going to find these tee shots and I'm going to put them just about there somewhere. So people, our American viewers who maybe not familiar, or global audience who aren't familiar with these golf courses, I will pop some imagery in the video.
12th tee Caymanas, 4th green or 4th tee shot at trial. And they used to play that in the championship. I think it was the 17th, because the 18th hole then had the viaduct I don't know if you're probably a bit too young to remember it, but when Faldo was winning, world championships, then in the early 90s, I think he won 95 there. You had to hit under the viaduct on the 18th, which was phenomenal. And, it was quite straightforward because we had, blocks of wood back then, which would low launch. I'm not so sure what it does now. I was only thinking about this the other day, even before we even talked about scaries. Some of the just incredible tee shots that, ultimately you get thrown in there. That was the 18th hole, and I think he played about a drive and an 8-iron or something like that. But if you wanted to hit 3 wood because you wanted to hit the fairway, then that's going to launch a little bit higher, and you really want to launch it underneath that viaduct. If I can remember rightly, you had to launch it underneath it. So it was close enough to be able to do that, but as soon as you start to get a club that's got 15 degrees of loft on it, you pop one up a little bit, you can hit that viaduct.
Wow.
It'd be kind of interesting to see it all again. It was 20 years since I played there. So,
I'm gonna take you to Florida for mine. I'm gonna take you to the TPC of Sawgrass. The 18th tee box is probably the scariest tee shot I've ever hit in my life.
Yeah. I mean, I can ultimately see why, and and obviously the 18th at the Belfry has its own merits. But I think the only reason why I haven't sort of pulled those out is because, well, that particular hole for me, I've not played Sawgrass, so for me that doesn't equate. But the 18th at the Belfry, you have choices as to how much you bite off.
Yeah.
So we've seen the Ryder Cups hinge on the choice of biting it off or not. We've seen many a great player end up in the water. And we've seen all sorts of miraculous shots played from short of the water. Azinger hitting it in the greenside bunker from just short of the water, and which is a ridiculous amount to carry. But and of course the ups and downs, it makes bogey for a half, and it didn't stop Europe taking the trophy that year. But so there's a lot of things that can happen, in a tee shot there. But yeah, for me, it was one of those tee shots that, no, as much as a right to lefter, that wasn't a tee shot that sort of troubled me too much. But I think the difference is because you kind of you can see your landing area more than you can see the water hazard itself. With Sawgrass, I get it because I've played, on ocean line courses, and when you're teeing it up and you've got the ocean on the right and sort of just a narrow strip of fairway and then dunes on the other side, there is no miss left and no miss right. I would think that 18 at Pebble would fall into that as well, but again, not a course that I've played, so I wouldn't put it into my sort of 3. But yeah, 3 tee shots there, quite different, quite challenging. Par 5, tough par 4 and a par 3. I mean, I didn't plan on doing that. I'd like to say I've done them off the cuff, but
yeah, that's really cool. And we
don't get me wrong, I've played some really tough tee shots and some tough, but ones that stand out. I think the 2 in Jamaica, especially. I think the element of 17, or would have been 17. I think it was the 4th. When we played it, was it was also an iconic tee shot as well over the water, and with the ocean on the left, and kind of just smacks. I'm looking outside, thinking it's not Jamaica outside where I am right now. So yeah.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? With I love it. Doesn't with you? Ocean courses don't fear me because of that kind of it's a spectacle. And like you said, I'm lucky enough to play places like County Down and Portmarnock and places like that, and they kind of frame the hole, they frame the golf course. The comparison to where somewhere like a Sawgrass on the 18, it just felt so open. There was so much water on the left, and then you could bail out, like you said, on the right. But it was just the expanse of water that put the heebie-jeebies in me, shall we say.
I know it, and you look on those, like you say, on the ocean courses. I mean, the old adages that come out, and you hear commentators saying, when a player puts it in the ocean, you just go like, the whole world's on the left-hand side, and he puts it in the ocean on the right. How can you miss it there? You know, when you can just aim over here. But it is, you know, that sort of magnetic attraction, and the fact that you stand on the tee and in awe of, you know, what God's just painted in front of you. You know, it is literally the most incredible visual landscape, seascape, you know, combination of the two, of course, you know, invariably at these links courses, and they're spectacular. And you know, it's yeah. But you know, likewise, you know, I love the challenges of the links, you know, a links course, but you know, just as much, you know, the inland courses as well. But what's the scariest thing you've ever seen on a green?
In terms of a slope or a putt, or just
Yeah, in particular putt, you know, again, maybe a course that we're familiar with, but you've seen it and maybe even putted it.
I'd say correct me if I'm wrong here, I've got the holes right. It's the 17th at Valderrama, isn't it? It's the par 5 with the water at the front.
Yeah.
Probably that hole. And again, I hit a decent drive. I hit an approach shot that just left me short of the water. I hit this little wedge onto the green, and that was the back of the green, and the pin was at the front, and the water is just looming because the front of the green is shaved down into the water. So if you put it off the green, you're in the water. And my caddy literally did say, take the toe of your putter and lean on the ball, and it will go. And it did. And I don't know how I did, but I kept it on the green just about. But that was probably the most fearsome because it was more embarrassment. I'm thinking if I knock it off the green and knock it in the water here, it's almost like somebody knocking it off the green and putting it into a bunker. It's a bit unheard of. For me, that was scary.
I've seen that happen, both actual occasions or both occurrences. I've seen both of those. And in fact, actually, 2 of my rules exam questions in the PGA back in 1993, when I were a lad, were just that. You know, the ball is spinning. The one question that I got very similar questions. So they were a walk in the park for me to just get them right and get out of there. I was done in about 17 minutes. I think my rules exam took me with 100%, you know, distinction. So rules was something that I was particularly, you know, sort of keen, you know, about when I was a junior, and when I was given a rule book and said you need to read it forwards and backwards and forwards again, you know. So I don't know how many times I did that. I could quote the rule books, and then every 2 years they change the rules, so they would change. But certainly back in the day, and I remember getting asked a question in my rules exam which said, a player A has hit the ball 3 feet above the hole on a par 4. All right, he's on the green in regulation. He proceeds to putt, catches the edge of the hole. The ball rolls off the green or down the slope, off the green and into a bunker. What are his options? Well, fortunately for me, I'd come across a scenario relatively similar and didn't take one of the options. Well, of course, there are a number of options, and maybe we should do a quiz here.
Yeah.
And actually set it out. So option 1, I'm going to tell you what it is, and we might just do a rules quiz one somewhere along the line, going down one of the later, maybe round 3, we'll do a rules quiz each time. But one of the options is, of course, to play out the bunker. Would be your first thought. You know, you just walk into the bunker. It's where I've hit it to. So not very happy, of course, because you've just hit 2 great shots into your or regulation shots to 3 feet above the hole, and now you've got a bunker shot. So talk about embarrassing. But of course, the other option is that you could return the ball to where it was under penalty of 1 shot, declare the bunker shot unplayable, and return the ball back to where it was, because you can always play it. Now, again, under penalty of 1 shot. So you've now got a bogey putt from 3 feet instead of a birdie putt that you had just a few minutes ago, but now you're not facing a bunker shot. So I don't know what I would do, because I might fancy my chances of holding the bunker shot. I'm pretty good at bunkers, but I don't hole that many, but I've now got a chance to make a 4 or run the risk of putting for 5 back into the bunker, because if it's that quick the first time, probably not going to hit it so hard. But I've now got an option to play my next shot. If I had a really good bunker shot to 3 feet, And there's every chance that I could end up above the hole, albeit probably not, just because of the speed of the green. So there's a dilemma. But, you know, when you lose your head having just putted off the green, you don't think about the actual option that you might have to go back to hit it from where you started. And the next question I had, which was actually something like question 5, so that might have been question 2. Question 5 was, a player's hit it to the fringe of the green and he's chipped it onto the green, off the green the other side and into the water hazard. What are his options? So now the ball is technically lost. What are the options? And of course, you could drop the ball on the side of the green, because now rather than place it because you were on the green, you can drop it on the side of the green. Back then, I think you may have been, no, 93, you wouldn't have been chucking it over your shoulder, no. But you'd have been, you know, we'd have been doing our Dalek impressions, so, you know, dropping it from shoulder height. But certainly, yeah, it was one of those, you know, things for me that, you know, the questions came up, but I'd already been in those scenarios, and, you know, and seen more than one person putt it, working at the Belfry, playing the Brabazon course, entertaining the 10th hole every now and again, which tended to entertain us more than we entertained it. You know, putting off the fringe or putting off the green and into the water.
Yeah,
that happened. You know, so and you need to understand your option, because one of the options is you go to the other side of the water. You know, depending on where you are in relation to the hole. So, you know, and you know, you don't want to be chipping when you could be dropping, you know, on the side of the green. So, you know, all of these things are, you know, worthwhile knowing, you know, and knowing that, you know, you've got an option, you know, going forward. So, yeah, you know, so I've seen some scary stuff, but probably the most difficult putt or green scenario that I had, I've mentioned it before, was the 10th green at Sandals, where I was head pro and director of golf for 4.5 years, and that was pretty scary if you got the wrong side of the hole, you know. And the year that I won the tournament there, it was I'd hit a cracking approach shot, played 9 holes as a practice round, and I was told to play 11 or 12 if I was going with 11 holes maybe. You know, if I was smart, and I didn't go up to number 10, I never gave it a thought when I was on the course itself, and played my approach shot into the middle of the green, as you do. You know, you're unfamiliar with the course, you've only played 9 holes as a practice round, and proceeded to put it off the green. Fortunately, it got snagged up in the fringe, because some people putted it off the green and ended up, you know, with a pitch shot. You know, I ended up with a little chip shot, and I did chip it because the lie suggested that it was a better option to chip it, and I got up and down from there. So I've hit the green in 2 and I come off with the 5, but only had 2 putts. And that was the saving grace. I actually played 54 holes without 3 putting. I was the only person to have done that, but then had to admit in the winner's speech that I had putted it off the green at number 10 in round 1. So technically still only, and I chose to chip it, and I'll be perfectly honest, I chose to chip it to make sure that I didn't hit the putter 3 times on that hole, because I felt a bit embarrassed about that. But actually it was the right shot to play, because it was pretty rough, bit of rough ground in front and very little chance of keeping the ball on line. So just one of those, you know.
Good fun, really good fun.
But, you know, if you play golf for 43 years, you'll come across some ridiculous putts on greens. And, you know, I think one of the most fun, apart from the fact that it was freezing cold, but the most fun afternoons I've ever had was at the end of tournament play, and 6:15 on a Tuesday evening in St Andrews, playing golf on the Himalayas. And that putting green there at the side of the clubhouse is just so much fun.
I'll put a picture down there because it is so much fun.
And the pictures, guys, will not do the slopes anything like justice. A little bit like they all say, if you've never been to Augusta, then, you know, you can't appreciate just how hilly it is. You know, some of these slopes were ridiculous. So, you know, but again, great fun. And I don't think there was a single par 2 on any one of them. Technically, so yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
A lot of fun.
Cracking.
Yeah, and of course, you know, we did that with a whole bunch of industry, you know, professionals. When I say industry professionals, not golf professionals, but industry professionals. These are the guys from the tour trucks, from Callaway and Cleveland and Ping and, you know, Odyssey, and, you know, we all got together. We just chucked I think we put a 10 or 20 pounds in the pot. St Andrews gifted us the green fees for the opportunity to play, and we put the money into the charity pot, and the winner gets to choose the charity. And that happens pretty much every year at some point during the year. And if it hasn't happened before they get to St Andrews, right at the very end of the year, it happens there. So I've been fortunate to play in that. And it's because I only qualified because of my training age through T-stroke, so I represented T-stroke. I didn't win, however. There was some ridiculous putts being holed, and you'd have to question some of the handicaps of some of these players. Anyway.
Absolutely brilliant. Andy, that was the first podcast out of the blocks of round 2. Was that good for you?
It was good for me. Yeah, absolutely. We haven't done much in the way of tour talk, which of course, that's kind of where we're at. Here in the UK, we are heading into lockdown. It gives me a great opportunity to be able to turn around and say that Instagram Live is back.
Yay! Woohoo!
So, those of you that followed us during Instagram Live during the first lockdown, you're in for a treat. I don't quite know how it's going to work out, because daylight is first issue. Kids coming back in from school, because we had the kids here, so it was, anyway, it's going to be around about 4 o'clock UK time, here. It'll probably be in the living room most weeks. I would think it will predominantly be on putting. We haven't set how many days yet, but we're going to start this Friday, and we'll probably do a Friday and a Wednesday and a Friday. I don't know, something like that, so that we can get podcasts in on the Monday. We will keep coming to you with as much information as we can. Next week, of course, we head into the major that we all wait for to start the season, and of course we're just about to unstart the season, with going into lockdown. And that's going to be a challenge for us all, because we all love to get out on the golf course as soon as we've watched the Augusta event unfold before our eyes. And we will chew it over. Next week it will be a Masters edition. We will have a special guest on as well, to be revealed. Just got to work out which time zone TW's in that day, and then we can actually throw it in.
Is he in Jupiter? Is he in Augusta?
Yeah,
we don't know.
So we just got to figure it out, sort of make sure that it doesn't interfere with practice rounds and all of that sort of stuff. So we will have a special guest on who has experienced the Masters, and so he's going to give us a little bit of an inside. I'm sure a few of you out there have also experienced the Masters, and if there's any questions that you'd like to know about Augusta ahead of time, fire them into us. You can contact me at golf@andygorman.com. Love to have your questions in. We can ask special guests. We can ask some of my contacts that have been to Augusta, have played Augusta, to maybe give you a little bit more of an inside the ropes experience, and we'll get as much as we can information about Augusta to you. So I'm quite looking forward to Masters edition next week, and of course we have a sponsor for next week as well, so tune in to find out what you've got to do with a chance to win a special prize for next week as well. So looking forward to it. I'm glad we've got round 2 underway. I'm glad we managed to get through with at least a level par in round 1. And we're looking forward to going subpar in round 2. So we hope you get to enjoy it. But if you've got any questions that you'd like us to answer, feel free to do that. And this time next week, I'll put some lights on as well, so you can see me a little bit more clearly towards the end of the round. Thanks for listening. You know where to find us, Andy Gorman Golf, andygormangolf.com, and all the social channels at Andy Gorman Golf. And remember, check us out on Facebook, on the Club Face Golf on there, and you can have a listen to us wherever you happen to be listening or capable of doing so. And again, you can watch us on YouTube, because we're now there as well. So, Gareth, thank you so much, mate.
Thank you, Andy.
It's been fun to actually see you whilst we've been chatting away today, and we hope that our faces don't put you off too much from tuning in next time. But till this time next week, have a safe one, stay well, and we'll see you then.